You were telling me a little bit earlier, you're at least dangerous when it comes to MicroStrategy. So maybe we'll get to that too.
Yeah, sure. I grew up in Pittsburgh. Actually met you while working probably what do you think 12 years ago or so,
Mm-hmm.
and um, we've stayed in contact since then. I think we were friends on Facebook or one of those sites, and you I saw you posting about Bitcoin. And I think maybe I just like reached out to you. Hey, I'm in it. I'm interested in it too. And we kind of we've met up a few times and grabbed a lunch or coffee here and there, and stayed in touch. And we are bonded by Bitcoin and Dr. Pepper, it turns out.
Very, very accurate. Yeah. Do you remember when you first heard about Bitcoin or what that process was like?
I do. I was working in Ohio at the time. It was probably around 2012, 2011, and I was on a three-way call with two of my friends. One happens to be a CFA and the other was a stock trader, and they brought it up. And I never heard of it. And it was just like, oh, it's this thing they people use to buy drugs on the dark web, and it's 20 cents one day and $40 the next. And I said, hey, well, why don't we all throw 200 bucks at it? And they thought that was stupid, but I tried to do that. And I went down a internet rabbit hole, and ultimately it was like I didn't have the capabilities to figure out what to do. I think I was on Mount Gox's website, and it was, as I recall, it was like you send them some money and cross your fingers. And I thought, it's not worth it. Obviously, it would have been nice, but I actually first bought it in, I think, 2017, around 2,500. And, looking back, the best thing I could have done was just bought it, never sold anything. And, that would have, I'd have a nice stash right now.
But other things were in store, some selling, some trading, or
Yeah, a lot of trading. I've held on to some Bitcoin, but yeah, I definitely did some trading, and and I've done well with it. I've made money with the trades, not all of them, of course, but just in the long term, looking back, I've thought in hindsight, if I just never would have hit the sell button, I'd probably have 10 Bitcoin or something right now, and I'm not at 10. So, if I could have done it over again, that's what I would have done. But I didn't really start to see the value in Bitcoin. I just kind of, when I bought it in 2017, and it went up a lot, I traded it, I sold out, and I'd say somewhere around 2020, 2021, I started to realize, oh, this is more than just some invisible currency on the internet. And I started to kind of see the bigger picture of Bitcoin around that time.
and what would you say that bigger picture is for you now, and where do you see it going with everything that's happening right now from the ETFs being available in the US, the new administration coming in January. I mean, we could go down a laundry list of like 24 things that are probably pretty encouraging for the next, short to medium term at least.
Yeah, yeah. I think the fixed supply of Bitcoin. When you see, one of the things that really that's really attractive about it to me is when you look at these charts on the debasing of the dollar.
Mm.
From 1972 to even when you look at one from 2000, and you just see what the dollar is doing, or currency in general, because they keep printing more of it. That is a huge part of it for me. Going forward with, we have a crypto friendly administration coming in, Microstrategy, as you mentioned, buying up all the Bitcoin that they can, BlackRock. It's hard to see any sustained downturn. I'm definitely looking at buying the dip at this phase right now. We're currently kind of in a pretty nice dip compared to some of the other ones we've seen, but to be expected with the last couple months of gains.
Hey guys, today's episode is brought to you by Stampseed. If you're in cold storage, you know how important it is to protect your seed phrase. That's why I recommend you head over to stampseed.com and check it out for yourself. This seed phrase storage device is one solid piece of titanium. There are no loose pieces, and you can hammer your seed phrase in letter by letter. When you go to stampseed.com, use promo code TIM15 for a 15% discount across the website. That's TIM15. When did you first hear about MicroStrategy, and what's your take on what they're doing and where that might go and how that plays into the Bitcoin ecosystem?
Yeah, I think around 2020, I probably heard Sailor online, some Sailor quotes and MicroStrategy, and I didn't really pay too much attention to it. There were some pretty cool Sailor memes that came out, but as I said to you, I'm not deep following of MicroStrategy, but I think I know enough to be dangerous in that category, and I don't know what I view MicroStrategy as. I can definitely see, I think in the simplest form, view it as a leveraged Bitcoin play. And I think if the price of Bitcoin does what it's supposed to do and what, us enthusiasts expect, I think it would be huge for MicroStrategy. I thought looking, a lot of the bearish sentiment on it. I look back at when Bitcoin went down to 15,000 a couple of years ago, and MicroStrategy survived that. So I think they can handle some pretty tough times if that happens. So I'm leaning on the positive side of MicroStrategy.
What's the vibe in the Pittsburgh area, in the friends and family and, social network in real life for you? Are there several people that are like, yeah, I think I understand Bitcoin. I own some Bitcoin. I like Bitcoin. Or is it kind of the opposite or somewhere in the middle?
Yeah, you know what? I'm on Twitter, and that's where I spend a lot of my time looking at it, seeing a lot of Bitcoin content or YouTube. But in my personal life, you're one of the only people I know that's
Hmm.
a fellow hodler like myself. I know of actually know of a guy that got into Bitcoin. He's a Pittsburgh guy. He got into Bitcoin, probably 2012, 2013, some earlier days. He would go to a Kogo's gas station and buy Bitcoin off some guy that he met there. Like, sounds like kind of like a drug deal or something. But I don't know how much he purchased and all, but I seen him recently, and I said, I said, "Hey, my Bitcoin brother, how are you?" And he laughed and said, he sold at 75,000. So
Like sold
I'm,
all of it?
yeah, he sold all of it. I don't know what he had at that time. I'm going to guess like one Bitcoin or a half a Bitcoin or maybe two, but I think he just kind of sold along the way up or something. But he's the only person I know that was kind of buying it in the real early days. But I didn't know him back then. So um as far as the general vibe goes, I think I'm starting to hear some people kind of asking about it, I guess, because they seen something on the news and the price went up. But, people that I know are cautious and haven't done the research on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, that was kind of how I was. Kind of when I first got into it, I just thought, well, if the thing goes up in price, I'll make some money, and that was all I was looking to do. But um, I'm kind of afraid to not own some Bitcoin at any point. Like if we go on a big bull run here, I'll probably probably take some profits, but I wouldn't sell out completely. And it's nice now that we can, um, buy puts on IBIT or something to kind of, hey, we had a great run. It's obviously going to cool off a little. Let's soften the blow instead of selling it. I think that's going to help the overall price of Bitcoin going forward too.
That makes sense. Do you think there's anything psychological around the $100,000 number? Because we went above it. Right now we're in the 90s, $90,000 Bitcoin, $95,000 Bitcoin. I mean, I thought it would, you know, just be headlines all over the place, and it was to a certain extent. But maybe as it pops back up above that and starts running the mainstream media and what you were talking about, people seeing it on the news or headlines or on social media, that may play into it. But and then also, your story about your Bitcoin brother, it almost seems like there's a rotation of the holder base from some of the earlier retail holders to, guys and gals that are, maybe our parents' ages buying it from a BlackRock or a Fidelity or a Bitwise sort of ETF product where they can just log into their Fidelity account and, almost treat it like a stock.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I definitely think that's probably happening on a bigger scale. That's an anecdotal story, but I'm sure he's not alone. I think you'll see a little less volatility, and as time goes on, less and less would be my guess. The $100,000 number, I mean, yeah, it's psychologically, it's, I especially people that got in early. I mean, it's like, hey, that's a nice number to sell at or sell some of it at. And I think we had that big sell wall at 100,000 that we finally got through.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also maybe because it's just so new, it's a little harder to buy at that number too. Um, I'm still making small buys at this point. I'm also kind of preparing for altcoin season, getting into some of that. But I think my long-term goal is to um, own Bitcoin, and I just don't see a case where it goes away or it just keeps going down and doesn't recover. I just don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my long term play is to try to accumulate as much as I can.
So, Microstrategy, they are selling shares at the market, so like additional shares that I think a lot of people, they think, oh, you're selling additional shares, that's dilutive, my stock's being diluted. But when they turn around and they immediately buy Bitcoin with it, it's like immediately accretive. What are your thoughts on that? And like, is that kind of unlimited, or they can, like this could go, is this going to go for 6 months or is this going to go for 10 years as far as like this strategy of selling convertible bonds and issuing shares and just taking all that cash and buying more Bitcoin? And it's just like this perpetual flywheel or something.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I guess I think it's dependent on the price of Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
If they get if it gets too low, then the value of the company gets scary and people want to sell their shares of the stock. Um, but at the end of the day, it's really something that I know what they're doing to an extent, but I'm not by any means an expert on what they're doing. And it's an interesting dynamic because you see people that think it's going to be the most valuable company in the world in 10 years, and you see other people that think it's going to zero.
Mm-hmm.
And they both have a case to be made. I see why it could be the most valuable company in the world. I mean, if Bitcoin goes to 1 million and they have 1 million coins by then, how do you compete with that? But I guess at the other end, the price crashes, they're in too deep. Can that lead to a major sell-off? I would think so. Where do you kind of see it going?
I think the use of intelligent leverage when it comes to the convertible debt and it being staggered with only one instrument per year is very thoughtful. It's actually right now about 24% leverage. So if you would tell someone that you went out and you bought a house, but you took out a mortgage for 24% of the purchase price, they would think, why didn't you get out? Why didn't you take a regular mortgage out, right? For 80, 70, 90%, 100% of that. So I think they're going about it in a very disciplined, thoughtful, intelligent, not over leveraged way. So you're leveraged long. And when they're buying additional Bitcoin, you're getting more Bitcoin per share. I think that's very novel. But yeah, I think unless you're familiar and you understand and you believe in Bitcoin, it may be a bridge too far to have someone shake their head up and down when you're talking about increasing your Bitcoin per share of a publicly traded company, because they're just buying a massive amount of Bitcoin, $1 to $5 billion a week worth of Bitcoin. That might sound a little out there to someone that's just not informed and doesn't have an interest in really diving into it.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I've seen too with people. It's, the ones who all say it's going to zero have really no understanding of Bitcoin, other than kind of what I thought of it back in 2012 as just some internet meme per se. But yeah, no, I can agree.
What do you think there's an event that could happen, like if the U.S. and or other countries start putting Bitcoin, like setting up these strategic Bitcoin reserves, and the price goes to $1 million? I mean, is it $100,000 price? Obviously not, because I don't think you have people's. I mean, you have the ETFs, right? The BlackRock ETF seems to be having, some range, $300 to $700 million a day of inflows. So I mean, that's not nothing, but it's not like the price is just. It's not like the super cycle is here and we're going to $10 million a coin tomorrow. So I guess I'm just curious, like, is it $100,000? Is it a price, right? 100,000, a million? Is it the U.S. government saying we're going to buy 1 million Bitcoin or 4 million Bitcoin, where the people that are at least paying attention just kind of start to lose their minds and like buy Bitcoin as fast as they can? I mean, or is it just we have the next 10 years until 99% of all the Bitcoin is mined, and people are still, like, the majority or maybe still not paying attention, but it just kind of happens anyways.
Great questions. I think if the U.S. Develops a strategic reserve, then it's going to create a snowball effect. Other countries are going to do it. Then people are going to wake up, and I think that would just send the price. It would just go straight uphill from there, I would imagine. And then you got companies like Amazon and Apple and Microsoft that are apparently being kind of weighing the option of adding some to their balance sheet. So I think, as soon as I remember in some of the other bull cycles too, we'd get some news like that, and you just look at your portfolio and have a nice smile, because and then if you have it all happening at once, it makes the argument for, you know, Bitcoin doing a lot more than people think it's capable of on in this current cycle that we're in. So I couldn't even begin to guess what I think it's going to do. But I do think I don't think the top is in.
Yeah, I remember seeing the announcements about the shareholder proposal for Microsoft, and then also for Amazon. I remember Tim Cook. think it was a year or two ago when he was being interviewed. He said that he personally held Bitcoin, but I haven't seen anything else regarding Apple. Have you seen anything else regarding Apple specifically?
I could be mistaken. I thought something about Apple, but I'm probably wrong. I know I've seen Amazon and Microsoft.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, yeah, things are moving quickly, so yeah, nothing would surprise me at this point. But yeah, it's interesting to see the Magnificent Seven, the top tech companies, shareholders, putting these Bitcoin proposals forth, and it definitely getting a lot of attention within the community, and it'll be interesting to see how much of that gets picked up by other media, and how much influence that has. I think we're recording on Tuesday, actually the day of the Microsoft vote. So I think by this afternoon we should have an idea of how that went, and was it 1% of the votes of the shareholders voting yes on that proposal? Is it 5%? Was it more than that? Yeah, because my understanding on that is, as you go from 1% to 5% to something less than 50%, it starts to have not just a snowball effect for that specific company, but larger implications across public companies and the market. So it could be interesting to see
Oh yeah.
how that unfolds over the next couple of days and weeks and into 2025, which it's the holidays. It's almost here.
Yeah, that it is. Yeah, it could be a double holiday for us.
Yeah. Well, where is there anywhere online that people should reach out to you at? Do you have any closing thoughts? And yeah, we'll wrap it up from there.
No, Tim, but I thank you for having me on. It was good to connect with you again, and we'll have to meet up next time I'm in town.
Yeah, be in the studio anytime you're in town, and hope you have a great holiday, and we'll do it again.
All right, you too, Tim. Thanks for catching up.
Thank you.